Okay, so we need to talk about Genie Plus, you guys. Let's get into this. All right, I want to start out by saying I am not a big fan of Genie Plus. So just keep that up front. That's kind of my overall feeling. I don't really like it. I think everything would be better off without Genie Plus or even without the FastPass system altogether. We went several times when they weren't using FastPasses, and it was so much better, you guys. The lines all moved consistently. You never just got stuck in a line, standing there forever. It was nice. And I would rather make constant progress in a line and maybe wait in line a little bit longer than just get to walk online, but yet technically you have to kind of wait still. You're just not waiting in line. I mean, that's kind of the way the FastPass works. Anyway, let's talk about Disney Plus and kind of a little bit how it works and my thoughts overall. I mean, I kind of told you my overall thought, but let's get a little deeper. All right, so we just got back. We spent 6 days at the parks. We only got Disney Genie. Yes, Genie Plus. Is that what it's called? Genie Plus. One day. We only got it one day. It was our very last day. And actually, once we got to the park, I probably would have been fine without it. But the day before had been super crowded and honestly, just a little on the miserable side. And then since it was the end of our trip, we had a couple people in our party that they kind of needed some extra assistance. Like, that sounds weird. Let me start it. Not that they needed extra assistance, just that they needed to not have to be standing in line. I was okay with waiting, but I kind of needed to be able to wait with people where they could be sitting down and relaxing. The waiting in line just wasn't going to work for them this day. And it ended up being not that busy, but you buy the Genie Plus 7 o'clock in the morning before the parks even open. So I had no way of knowing if they were going to be busy or not. So it really wasn't bad park wise. And it probably would have worked out okay without it. But I did get it for that reason, to use it almost more like a disability pass, just so that I could have people like sit on a park bench and wait instead of having to stand and wait. That's kind of the main reason I got it. And it did work out for my purpose, but I do not think it's a good value at all. So the day we went, we got it for, or that last day that we got it, we only used it for 4 rides. So we only got 4 fast passes. And for the cost, it's $15 a person and you only have 4 rides. So basically that is $3.75 per ride, like of the 4 rides that we did to ride them per person. So for each person, I paid $3.75 to ride the ride. And if it was just that, that'd be fine, except that I kind of like already paid to ride the rides because I paid thousands of dollars just to get into the parks and to ride the rides. So I mean, I know it's just $3.75, but when you add that up with 8 people, it does start to get up there. And I mean, it was like we rode Peter Pan, Winnie the Pooh, Buzz Lightyear, Spin Out or whatever, and Big Thunder Mountain. Big Thunder Mountain maybe is worth that, but I'm sorry, but Peter Pan, I just don't feel like is worth paying additional $3.75 per person. But it did work for what we needed. We were able to ride more than just those 4 rides, but that's what we used the Fast Pass for. But we were able to ride everything without having to stand in a line too long. We were able to go that morning and we rode Jungle Cruise, Pirates, and then we walked right over and rode Peter Pan, and we walked on all 3 of them. We did not have to wait. Then what did we do after that? I think we rode something else in Fantasyland. I don't really remember. We rode Winnie the Pooh, and then we moved over to Tomorrowland, and we rode a few things in Tomorrowland, and we also did not have to wait more than maybe just a little bit, like a few minutes or so. So it definitely worked for what I needed. It helped keep people more rested, and we were able to move at a little bit slower of a pace. But I don't feel like it was really worth the value. If I had it over to do again, I probably would just say, we're just not going to ride Peter Pan if it has a long wait. we'll just skip it, because it was the last day of our trip. And we had ridden Peter Pan, or had we? I don't think we had, actually. I don't think we had ridden that one yet, but we have ridden it in the past. So I would probably be okay with just skipping it and not paying an additional amount of money for that. I would rather use that money towards something else, personally. The other problem I found with the Genie Plus was you can only get a new Fast Pass like every 2 hours or once you use it. So I booked first thing in the morning, as soon as you could at 7, I got on and I got the earliest Fast Pass I could to Peter Pan, because I know it's one that's harder to get. The earliest I could get was like 9:55. We were there at 9:55 and rode, but the next Fast Pass I couldn't really get for about another 15 minutes was the next closest Fast Pass I could get to that. And then I couldn't get another Fast Pass, till we rode that ride. So it ended up being really spread out. And I feel like I worked the system the best you can. Like I didn't just let a bunch of time lapse. I mean, I was there and ready to book the moment I could book something. And we did leave the park a little early, but I think had we stayed, I probably only could have maybe fit in one more Fast Pass. And 5 Fast Passes for the price that it is, I just don't feel like that's the best. But I don't know, maybe that's worth it to you, and maybe I just wasn't doing it right, and you guys are like, girl, you didn't know how to work the system. It was not like that. But that was my experience, and I would not personally probably do that again. All the other days that we were there, we did not use Genie Plus. We just waited standby for everything. And it worked. Well, I take that back. We did buy Rise of the Resistant passes because some of the people in our party had never ridden before, and my husband really wanted them to ride. So we bought passes for that, which we will also probably not do again because we have all ridden. So if the standby is too long, we probably would just skip it. But this was like the one and only trip that they were going to be on, and he really wanted them to ride. So we went ahead and did that just so that they could have that experience with him. But I really kind of have trouble with the principle of the matter of paying for rides when we've already paid for the rides. That kind of bugs me. So, but okay, so that aside, the rest of the trip, we pretty much just waited in standby for everything else all the rest of the days. And it was actually okay. Some of the lines were a little long, but not bad. Some of them, you could tell like a lot of Fast Pass people showed up and the line kind of stopped and stalled. But that happened with the old Fast Pass system too, so that wasn't really anything new. I do miss when we didn't have them at all, because it was nice that everyone just constantly flowed through. So, but yeah, for the most part, we just rope dropped, and that worked really well. We were able to rope drop at Epcot, Frozen, and then we went over to Remy. Remy broke down on us, so we ended up waiting a long time for Remy. We were probably, I think we waited about an hour, maybe an hour, 15 minutes for Remy. Had it not broken down, I think we would have gotten through that line probably in about 45 minutes, since we did hit up Frozen first. But since it broke down, we ended up waiting longer. Luckily, it wasn't a lot longer because people kept getting out of line, and so we kept progressing even though the ride wasn't open. So when it did open, we were like right up front, and we were like, oh, well, that worked out. So we went ahead and did that, and we were willing to wait because it's the only ride at Epcot that we have not ridden, and we really kind of just wanted to see what it was like. But I'd heard it wasn't the best, and so I really did not want to pay to ride it. And I'm glad I did not pay to ride it, because I will probably not ride it again, unless the line is like 15 minutes and the kids really want to ride it, and I'll be like, okay, yeah, whatever. But it is not a ride that I'm like, oh, I really want to ride that again. I really could take it or leave it. It did not impress me that much. Now the line I thought was really neat, but I honestly kind of was more impressed by the line than I was the actual ride. And I don't get motion sickness very much, but that one definitely gave me a headache and made me dizzy for about an hour or two after. It took me a little bit of time to get over it. So if you do struggle with motion sickness, beware, because that is something that only bothers me like teeny tiny bit and it's got to be pretty intense. And Remy is one of those. Which doesn't make sense because it's a little ride, but something about the way they do it's bad. So yeah, I definitely would not pay to ride that one. So if you're like, hey, I don't know if I want to or not, I personally would say just skip it. But, you know, you kind of have to make that decision because, you know, you don't want to be like, oh, I really wish we tried that. But that's just my experience. We rode it. We can say we rode it now and I'm kind of done. I would rather go ride Living with the Land. But okay, I'm like just going on and kind of off subject here. But yes, overall, I am not in love with Genie Plus, which I kind of started with. I don't feel like it's really worth the value. But if you were going to get it, I feel like the Magic Kingdom was really the only park that it would even be somewhat helpful. All the other parks, I really do not see how it would help at all. I really don't. And places like Hollywood Studios, the 2 rides that have the longest lines, Genie Plus doesn't even work for. You have to buy like the additional, like you pay just to ride that ride. So again, if you're going to go that route, it would be better just to pay to ride that one ride and don't even bother with the Genie Plus. So, because like the Genie Plus at Hollywood Studios has things like the character meet and greet and stuff. We went and saw Minnie Mouse, 0 line. We walked right up. She was like standing there just waiting for people to come see her. But that's something you could get a fast pass to. So you really don't need it. I would have been kind of frustrated had I paid for it. And I'm like, you can walk up and see her. Why did I pay for a fast pass? So yeah, I would just probably hold off if I were you. If you were to ask me my advice, like you got to do you. But if you were to ask me what I think you should do or what I would do, I would hold off on buying Genie Plus. I would not buy it initially with my tickets when I first made my purchase. I would wait till I got to the parks, kind of felt out how the park was running for that week. And then if I did buy it, I would probably buy it maybe for the last day at like Magic Kingdom and try and hit up those rides that maybe you just had not been able to get onto for whatever reason. And that way too, if everything's flowing well and you're able to get on Peter Pan and Winnie the Pooh and all that stuff without a big deal, then come your last day, you're going to be like, I don't need to spend the extra, I think it was like $180 for us to buy the Genie Plus. It's quite a bit. That was 8 people though. Like it was a lot of people. But you might find that you really don't need it. And so save yourself a little money. And you can always buy it at any point in the day. So, if you got there and come 1 o'clock, you really wanted to buy it, you could. The only problem is the passes seem to go pretty quickly. So if you buy it at 1, you may not actually be able to get a pass that will do anything for you till maybe more like 3 or 4. And then you're going to run into that problem where you maybe only can get 1 or 2 passes more. So is it really worth the cost to ride 2, maybe 3 rides? That's kind of a personal decision, but I don't think it is. So anyway, that is my advice on the Genie Plus. Yeah, I don't know. I hope you guys found this helpful. I'm sorry if I sounded too negative about it. It kind of irks me. So I tried to be positive. I'm sorry if that was negative, but I hope you guys have a good trip if you're planning on going, no matter what you do. And I will see you all in my next video. Bye.